We've talked in the past about the cycle of judgment, the judgment cycle, and how we have been conditioned to judge ourselves and each other and to punish and attack and vilify and diminish and control each other via judgmentalness driven by fear. We've communicated that this is a sort of ego identity prison. It's a vehicle, so to speak. It's also simultaneously a prison. We tend to operate and move through society via this ego identity and this judgment process, constantly fearing death, abandonment, pain, loss, or lack, or disempowerment or diminishment, and which maps very well, we would assume, to our starting conversation about this situation with the possibility of Roe versus Wade being overturned within the Supreme Court. So this fear-based ego-identified prison and tribal identity and social identity and ego identity process is held in place and kept in a constant cycling dynamic of the judgment cycle, and finding ourselves as either being bad or wrong or not good enough or less than or undeserving or not as good as somebody else. And that then paradoxically, once a person becomes aware of their fear, their ego identity, and their tendency to judge, they can go into a process of judging themselves for judging themselves, or judging themselves for being judgmental about other people or critical towards themselves or other people. And we absolutely get that that is a challenging dynamic that must be worked through and out of into consciousness. And the question is, how is this done? It's challenging to get out of ego identity and fear and judgmentalness and into an operational vantage point of functional constructive consciousness, and to stay there. So we can be conscious in one moment and be triggered into judgmentalness or fear or insecurity or anxiety in another moment. We can be very conscious and balanced and loving and kind and caring and go into hatred or wanting to control or someone else or ourselves, or feeling unsafe suddenly. So we go up and down like the LED on an old stereo system. And so we want to suggest that it is possible to operate from consciousness on a consistent basis. It's not a black and white thing. You're not going to get to consciousness and all of a sudden you've got no fear, no judgment, no criticism, no feelings of ego dynamics of being better than or less than or wanting to be special or wanting to be safer in control. That's not the likely result. And that said, you have more and more and more moments of consciousness that are more and more continuous in their flow, and less moments of ego identity, feeling that you're an I or a separate non-oneness with spirit and the planet and all of humanity. So this realized state of conscious oneness and realized equality is achievable, and it's important not to stress about it at all, even though often we stress about it. We say, well, how come everyone else seems to be conscious and non-judgmental, and I feel all judgmental or conflicted or fragmented or not in that space that supposedly everybody else is in? Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. First, not everybody else is in that conscious space, or they're only in it for a while or a time or on certain topics or in certain conversations or certain venues or certain relationships. And you might just be seeing a little bit of consciousness that happens to be shining in the present moment. That said, everybody has the capacity to continually experience consciousness and operate from it and resonate with it and with spirit and with all of the higher capacities that individual human beings have and all of the higher capacities that our species has as a totality. And achieving that is a choice. And it's a choice that, because we are fragmented, we have 7 main in-body chakras and multiple, 188,000, give or take, major and minor chakras. We can kind of get lost in all of that multidimensionality and conflicted about it and upset with ourselves for not being able to hold a continuity of quality, loving, caring, kind, compassionate consciousness and service intention. So forgiveness, 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 forgiveness over and over and over is necessary, because if we don't do that, then we tend to remain stuck in self-judgmentalness or dissatisfaction with ourselves or somebody else, anger at ourselves or someone else, hatred for ourselves or someone else. And so forgiveness is a key element, and it's not the whole recipe. Intention, setting an intention. Mantra is very helpful in this process. The Om Vajra Sattva Hum mantra for resolution of obscurations is very helpful. We would suggest that every judgment that you hold of yourself or other is an obscuration. Every negative emotion that you have towards yourself or towards other or both is only an obscuration. It's a misunderstanding of who you are as a soul and who everyone else are as souls, and what the nature of this process of this planet is really all about. So none of this is a problem, and we can all get past it, and there are expeditious ways to get there. You're aware of the forgive and forget pressure point on your left hand here that you can squeeze between thumb and index finger and work and release and forgive anything. You can use that not just on forgiving someone. You can forgive yourself for being afraid. You can forgive yourself for being hateful or angry. You can forgive yourself for being confused. You can forgive yourself for feeling depressed or less than or diminished. You can forgive yourself for not feeling capable or empowered. And if you do, you'll feel better, more balanced, more capable, more empowered, more positive, less hurt, less angry, less wounded, less victimized. You can forgive yourself for feeling victimized. You can forgive yourself for feeling that you've ever been a perpetrator. You can forgive yourself for having operated as an unconscious rescuer. These are all options, as long as you choose to make them a big rock in your jar, an important priority in your life, and a consistent, methodical, day after day after day effort. If you forgive yourself, it only takes 30 seconds to 40 seconds to go through this 6-breath forgive and forget cycle on pressure point on your left hand. If you forgave yourself for 5 things a day for 30 days, you would have forgiven yourself for 150 different dimensions of life process that have been weighing you down. If you did that every month for the next year, just 5 forgivenesses per day, that's well over 1,600 or so. My math is off. I apologize. Are we making sense that this can have a massive effect on your whole quality of life as long as you're consistent and committed to it? So one last statement that's important to understand here. From consciousness, you can look at any dimension of your system, whether it's anger, fear, depression, dejection, judgmentalness, hatred. It doesn't matter what it is. You can look at it with equanimity, without judging it, without feeling bad about feeling bad, without judging yourself for judging yourself. And then you become so much more powerful, so much more capable of transforming yourself in absolutely foundational, comprehensive, effective, efficient ways. We just want you to know it is possible. We want you to know you can do it. We want you to have confidence. We want you to recognize that there is a path. It does work. You can get there. You can do that. You can live that.